present or you buy them, they jump into my grocery cart all the time, is you want to separate the inner pot from the cash pot, because this is death to orchids, okay? And even if you go by their stupid tags that say shot glass or once a week ice cubes, you're still going to get water accumulating in the bottom. And that is a good way to kill these roots, which have adapted to an epiphytic lifestyle. So I usually put a little something in the bottom so that this sits a little higher, all right, and is easy to take out, because you want to take this to the sink to water, okay? So when you water, you always water thoroughly and deeply. Run the water through the medium for about a minute by the clock, okay? I take my kitchen sprayer, we get a bath, we sing. No, we don't really. I'd probably stunt them if I sang to them. But you want to keep the leaves clean. Just when you're through, when you're all through, just blow the air, blow the water that might accumulate in the leaf axil. So blow it out, use the corner of a paper towel, but don't be afraid to get things wet. It rains in the jungle. All right, so now this is potted in a bark-based medium. This formula was, or this medium was formulated for a greenhouse, okay? That's not where we grow. We have a very different kind of environment. So the first thing you want to do, besides getting that to sit a little bit higher, and so you can take it to the sink, is you want to get it out of the grower's medium, because we don't have the same environment. So we change the medium to suit our environment. So there's a lot of garbage on the internet about, you know, you want to pot it in the same kind of medium that you got it in, because obviously the grower knew better than you do, and that is malarkey. The grower is mass producing these, and he wants you to throw this plant out and buy a new one. So you want to get it out of the grower's medium, because A, it's not formulated for your environment, and B, this plant has been pushed really pretty hard with fertilizers to bring it to the marketplace. So the medium is full of salts. So this is a salt-sensitive plant, and some of the damage to these roots is because of the salt accumulation within the medium. So that's the big reason why you want to get it out of the old medium. You want to drop that salt level. Salts kill root tips, burn root tips, okay? Retard root growth, and that's not what we're about, okay? So out with the old, and you can see that I have cleaned up the entire root mass. There's no reason to retain any of this. Now this can go in the compost pile, not a problem. So now I'm going to gently ease these roots kind of down, because I'm going to put this in a pot. Now it's kind of like trying on shoes, and you can see over here, in spite of the dendrobium, that I have a whole range of different size pots to choose from. But you get a shot of that, okay?
So how do you decide?
Oh, well, it's like trying on shoes, okay? So I know that I can curl these roots up so that it'll be comfy cozy in this pot without being too crammed, because they do like to be actually pretty close in a pot, okay? So can you get a shot of that root density? Mm-hmm. So that's about what you're looking for. You don't need grow room in the pot for this kind of plant, because this is a slow growing vine. It's going to spend the rest of the year actually climbing out of the pot.
Okay.
So you want good, firm, comfy, cozy digs for the roots, because most of your new root mass is not going to be in the pot in the medium, because they don't grow in medium. All right, they don't grow in this, I'm calling this medium, because it's a substrate that we use for growing orchids. It's going to send most of its roots out above. So I'm tucking little tufts. This has been fluffed and moistened, and I'm just taking tufts and just tucking them in and around those roots.
So this is wet?
This is moist. It's not as, I just made some new this morning, so it's not as moist as I like it.
I thought it was dry,
How
but
did
it's
you
not.
moisten it? Did you take like the hose of the kitchen sink and spray it, or?
Well, here I use a watering can.
Okay, and then you just
But
like,
if you're doing it at home, you know, get a dish pan, okay, or maybe a bread bowl, something that gives you some volume, and it comes in a compressed bale. Here's one kind, so you can see it comes compressed. All right. So what I do is I would maybe take about half of this, fluff it up dry, add a little water, knead it like bread, okay, until it's moist but not drippy. And that is my peculiarity because that's how I determine the density within the pot, is I'm working with fluffed, moist, but not drippy wet sphagnum. And what you're looking for is fluffy but full inside the pot. So you see, I'm not cramming it down, I'm just tucking it. I usually tell people if this is the first time you've done it, make it really, really fluffy because as it settles, you can always add a little bit. But if you've made it too dense, then the roots are not going to have the air that they need in order to metabolize, and you're not going to know any better. And you might, if you overwater by accident, all right, get too enthusiastic with watering, without that fluffiness in there, it's going to be doubly bad for the roots because you're going to fill what air spaces you have in the medium with water, okay? So again, just tucking. You don't want the level of the medium to be any higher than where that lower leaf clasps the base. So don't worry if you've got what I call the shoulders of the roots above the medium. That's okay, it's an epiphyte. That's the way it lives. So you don't have to cover up every bit of root compulsively. You can actually let some sit out. The important thing is keep it fluffy, don't overfill, and you can see that when I cover the roots to the depth I want, that it's actually to this lower lip, and that means that I've got a water reservoir. So when I water this in the sink, imagine putting it in the sink, I use my kitchen sprayer, okay, and I'm washing off the leaves, and I'm turning it, and I'm making sure that I water all sides, okay? But depending on the volume of the water and how rapidly it's filling, it gives me a reservoir, all right? And I will water for about a minute by the clock, then let it totally drain out. Now, the big burning question is, okay, if that's how you water, that's wonderful. When do I water again? Well, not on a time basis because they don't have day timers, all right? You want to water when the top, like ½ inch, gets crunchy, crispy, bone dry. There's a sample right here. You can feel that it's crunchy, bone dry. And if you feel the difference between crunchy, bone dry and the moist, it's you a really good baseline to tell when it's time to water. These pots will dry out, not based on time so much, but weather, you know? And if we have 10 days of gray, cloudy weather and no sun, it may not be ready to be watered for, let's say, just arbitrarily 10 days. Whereas if you have a good sunny day where it's hot, even in the air conditioning, or when it's bitter cold and the humidity is really low, this may dry out in 5 days. So you can have this huge range of time, and if you're watering on a time basis, you'd be overwatering sometimes, and other times it'd be too dry. So tactile feedback, that crunchy for about a ½ inch deep, not all the way down, and at the same time, when it gets crunchy, this is going to be feather light. So you now have 2 ways of telling that it's time to water. Crunchy, ½ inch deep, whoop, fly away light, time to water, okay? If there's any doubt, wait a few more days. This guy is in the metabolism of a cactus, so it's drought tolerant, but it's not tolerant of wet roots. So you can't treat it like a fern, treat it like a cactus. Does that make sense? Yep. The third thing after sunlight is going to be annual repot, and it's because this is going to be composting. When any organic matter composts, it gets more dense, holds less air, which is what I've just been talking about. And because I don't want you to go through hoops and use distilled water or anything fancy, use your municipal water, all kinds of organic material, either the sphagnum or the bark, hold salts. This is a salt-sensitive plant, so by the annual repot, we drop the salt level, we put in fresh medium that has more air holding capacity, and remember this guy's a slow-growing vine? Mm-hmm. He's crawling out of the pot over the course of a year, and you're going to reorganize his life and put him back in. All right? That's it. Any questions?
Good
No,
job.
that's great. Thank
All
you.
right.